I never thought the biggest betrayal of my life would come from someone I used to share eyelash glue with. We were the kind of friends who finished each other's sentences, who'd FaceTime at 2 a.m. just to cry about guys we knew we shouldn't be crying over. Rayanne and I, we were sisters since orientation week at Cal State LA. Same major, same taste in music, same dreams of making it in LA. She was my person. At 22, I had finally landed my first real job, an admin role at a luxury real estate agency in downtown Los Angeles. Nothing glamorous, but it paid enough to cover my rent-controlled studio in Koreatown, and I was proud of that. I was on my own, independent, and just starting to get my footing in the real world. Then, one night around 11 p.m., my phone started blowing up. It was Rayanne. She was sobbing. Her boyfriend had kicked her out, said she had to leave that night. She had nowhere to go. I didn't even hesitate. I told her to come over. She showed up with 2 suitcases and a trash bag full of clothes. Mascara streaked down her cheeks and said, "Just give me a month, I'll figure things out." I told her, "Of course, your family." The first week was fine. We laughed a lot, watched Netflix, ordered takeout. It was like being in college again. But that 1 month turned into 2, then 4, then 6. Rayanne wasn't working, said she was between opportunities. I covered groceries, Wi-Fi, utilities. I even turned down a short-term job opportunity in San Diego, a move that would have doubled my pay because she broke down crying and said, "Don't leave me here. I have no one else." And I believed her. She said she was trying to heal, so I gave her space. I stopped dating, gave up my bedroom so she could have privacy, and I slept on the futon. I convinced myself that was what real friendship looked like, sacrifice. But looking back, it was the first chapter in the slow burn of my own undoing. And the part that still makes me sick. I didn't see the betrayal coming. Not even when she started flirting with my boyfriend in front of me. Not even when she cried on the couch while he packed up and ghosted me. Not even when I found myself evicted because of her. But we'll get there. First, you have to understand why it hurt so bad. Because this wasn't just any friend. This was the woman I would have taken a bullet for. And instead, she loaded the gun. I wish I could tell you I started seeing the red flags right away, but when you love someone, really love them like family, you excuse things that would make strangers walk away. Rayanne started staying out late. She'd vanish for hours, sometimes all night, and return home in Uber rides wearing heels. She didn't leave in. No explanations. Just a breezy girl. Louisiana is wild, and she'd crash on my bed without a word of thanks. My groceries started disappearing faster. Almond milk? Gone. Leftovers? I was saving? Vanished. And when I'd bring it up, she'd twist it back on me. "You always used to say what's mine is yours." She'd pout, "Why are you acting brand new?" And I'd feel guilty, like I was the one overreacting. Then came the shift with Damien. He was my boyfriend. Well, trying to be. We'd been seeing each other for about 3 months. He was sweet, reliable, the kind of guy who texts good morning and actually shows up on time. At first, he and Rayanne got along. Too well. She'd sit too close on the couch, laugh at all his jokes like she'd never heard a punchline before. One night I caught her wearing my hoodie, Damien's hoodie, the one he left over after movie night. When I asked her about it, she shrugged. It was cold, chill. I brushed it off, but that night, I started locking my bedroom door. Until one evening, I came home early from work, arms full of Trader Joe's bags, and walked in on the sound of laughter. 2 voices, hers and his. In my bedroom, the door was open. They were sitting on my bed, knees nearly touching, going through a photo album I'd hidden at the back of my closet, one that had pictures of my mom before she passed. I dropped the groceries. They both froze. Damien had the nerve to say, "Babe, she just wanted to know more about you. Chill." Rayanne looked me dead in the eye and said, "You don't talk about your mom. I wanted to understand what made you so guarded." Like I was a project. Like my grief was some personality flaw she needed to fix. I didn't say anything that night. I just nodded and walked into the kitchen. But that was the last night. Damien stayed over. A week later, he ghosted me. No call, no text, blocked me on everything. Rayanne didn't ask me once if I was okay. Instead, she started humming in the shower. She was happy. And then came the eviction notice. I stood in the hallway, holding that pink slip like it was radioactive. 3 months rent unpaid. I had been giving Rayanne cash, asking her to drop it off because I was swamped with work. She never did. She spent it. On what? I didn't know. But when I confronted her, she didn't even deny it. "You're acting like I'm some stranger," she said coldly. "I thought you said we were in this together." I was done. I told her to pack her things and leave. She looked me square in the face and whispered, "You wouldn't have anything if it wasn't for me. I made you likable. Without me, you're invisible." Then she walked out with my leather jacket slung over her shoulder. I moved back in with my aunt in Long Beach, tail between my legs, too ashamed to tell anyone what happened. And for years I didn't. Until last month, when I ran into her at a coffee shop in Santa Monica. She was wearing a wedding ring. And standing next to Damien. But that's not even the part that made my blood run cold. It was what she whispered when she saw me. She smirked and said, "Told you you'd be invisible." And that's when something in me snapped. I stood there in that coffee shop, staring at her smug face, that same crooked little smirk that used to charm everyone. She hadn't changed much, just older, bolder, and now wearing Damien like some kind of victory medal on her arm. He didn't even look at me, just kissed her cheek and walked to the register like I was invisible, like I was background noise in a story they rewrote without me. "Rayanne," I said, calm, slow, "don't do this." She cocked her head. "Do what? Smile? Live my life?" "No," I said, teeth clenched. "Don't act like you didn't steal everything from me." She took a sip of her latte, my old order by the way, and laughed. "I didn't steal anything, sweetie. You gave it all to me. I just didn't give it back." That was it. That was the moment something inside me broke. I turned to leave. I wasn't about to lose it in a cafe full of tourists and soy milk addicts. But then her voice followed me like venom. "Oh, and by the way, he proposed after I told him how much you talked about your dead mom? Said it made him appreciate vulnerability?" I froze mid-step, my nails dug into my palm. She knew exactly what to say to hit me where it hurt. I left, but my hands were shaking the whole drive home. I couldn't stop thinking, is this how it ends? She gets everything. I get silence. She gets the love, the wedding, the narrative. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I opened my old email, the one I hadn't touched since the week I left LA, and I started searching. Messages, receipts, voice memos, bank transfers. Every little thread she left behind when she thought I was too heartbroken to look. And slowly, piece by piece, a story unfolded. One she never expected anyone to tell. There was an email from Damien 2 months before we even broke up. Subject line about her. "This feels wrong." Inside. "Ray, I care about her. I do, but this feels manipulative. You said she'd be okay if we eased into it. This isn't easing. This is gaslighting." I stared at the screen for 10 full minutes. Then another email from our old landlord, confirming that Rayanne never paid a single dollar of rent. The receipts I'd given her, all deposited into her account. Gone. And then, the final blow. A Dropbox folder I forgot even existed. Inside, dozens of photos. Me, her Damien. But also, files, screenshots, of her using my email to send herself my writing samples, my resume, her cover letters, with my credentials. That editor job she got after we stopped talking, she used my writing portfolio to get it. She didn't just take my boyfriend. She stole my life. And the worst part? I let her. I was so desperate to feel loved, to feel like I wasn't alone after my mom died. I handed her the keys and watched her burn the house down. But not anymore. I spent the next week compiling everything. I sent a quiet little email to her company's HR department with receipts. Then I messaged Damien, not to get him back but to give him closure. I sent him a single screenshot of the Dropbox folder with the message. "You deserve to know who she really is, just like I did." And then, silence. 2 days passed. 3? Until I got a reply. From Damien. "Meet me. Alone. Griffith Park. Saturday, 5 p.m. I need to tell you something." I shouldn't have gone. But curiosity, rage itched under my skin like poison. So I did. And what he said next cracked open everything I thought I knew about Rayanne. "She lied to both of us," he said quietly, eyes sunken, hands shaking. "She told me you cheated, that you used me, that you laughed behind my back. I believed her because I wanted to believe I was rescuing someone." He looked at me, full of guilt. I didn't realize I was being used too. Then he pulled something from his pocket. A phone. And on it? A voice recording. Rayanne's voice. "I just need you to propose, okay? Once you do, she'll spiral. I'll be the calm one. I'll win. I always win." My knees almost buckled. That wasn't just betrayal. That was warfare. And now? I had everything I needed to fight back. The next morning, I couldn't breathe, not out of fear, but out of clarity. A decade's worth of gaslighting, betrayal, heartbreak, it had all led to this moment. I finally had the truth. Tangible, undeniable. And I was done being the girl who walked away crying while she walked off smiling. I was going to burn every carefully constructed lie she'd built her new life on, and I was going to do it with evidence. I started by sending the voice recording to a contact I still had in local media, Samantha Kim. She owed me a favor. Years ago, I'd covered for her during a publishing deadline disaster. Now I called it in. "This is big," she said after hearing the clip. "You sure you're ready to go public?" I stared at my reflection in the mirror. My face was calm, my voice steady. I was ready 10 years ago. The plan came together fast. Phase 1. Exposure. Samantha ran a story the very next week. Not tabloid trash, not some anonymous gossip, an editorial piece titled, "When Friendships Turn Fatal, The Psychology of Social Sabotage." She included everything. The emails, the fake rent transfers, the resume theft, and the pièce de résistance. The voice memo. She blurred the names, but people who knew us, they'd know exactly who it was about. Phase 2. Professional collapse. I made a quiet phone call to the managing editor of Greylight Media, Rayanne's employer. I had proof she used my credentials to get her job. I forwarded her falsified resume next to mine. They emailed back within an hour. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. An internal ethics investigation is underway. 3 days later, Rayanne's LinkedIn profile vanished. Phase 3. Social implosion. This is the part I didn't expect. Damien. He posted a video. Just him, no filters, no drama, just truth. I've been manipulated, he said, and I want to apologize to the person I hurt most by believing lies I never questioned. You didn't deserve what happened, you were always the honest one. It blew up. Hundreds of comments, most saying, we knew something was off. She always talked down about her CX best friend, like she was obsessed with her. She couldn't run from it. Not anymore. I didn't block her. I wanted her to see what it felt like to lose everything from the sidelines. But then, she showed up. Unannounced. Outside my apartment. Banging on the door like a woman possessed. Open the door, she screamed. You think this is justice? You think you're the victim. You ruined me. I opened it, calmly, no fear. You did that to yourself, I said. She lunged, but I was ready. I'd already called the police and set my phone to record. The video caught everything, her screaming, threatening, grabbing at me. And when the officers showed up, they didn't even hesitate. She was cuffed on my porch, mascara running, still screaming my name. You don't win. You never win. Funny thing is, I didn't feel like I won. I felt done. Like I'd finally reached the end of a chapter I never got to finish on my own terms. She was charged with harassment and trespassing. The judge issued a protective order. She fled LA the next month. Her social accounts were wiped clean. Mutual friends stopped responding to her texts. The job offers stopped coming. And Damien? He didn't try to rekindle anything. He said goodbye and meant it. We both did. Because some things, once broken, aren't meant to be rebuilt. But me? I started writing again. Actually writing, under my name, with my words. And my story? It wasn't just survival. It was rebirth. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't sometimes think about her. And what she sees when she Googles my name now. Because if she does, she'll see the truth. And the one thing she never expected. Me, thriving. Without her. You'd think after everything, after the article, the job loss, the arrest, Rayanne would disappear into some far-off corner of the country and leave me in peace. But people like her don't vanish quietly. They claw, they plot, they wait. And that's exactly what she did. It started subtly. Anonymous emails to my freelance clients accusing me of plagiarism. Random spam comments flooding my personal blog with words like fraud and liar. At first I brushed it off, figured it was the price of finally standing up for myself. But then my work started drying up. 2 sponsorship deals fell through in the same week. One editor ghosted me completely. When I finally got someone on the phone, they hesitated. There's been some chatter, they said. We just don't want to be caught in any controversy. I knew that phrase. I'd heard it before years ago when I first lost everything and no one wanted to ask questions. History was repeating itself, but I wasn't the same girl anymore. I wasn't going to run and hide this time. So, I fought back. First, I hired a digital forensics specialist. Turns out, the anonymous emails were all traced back to the same VPN IP range used in Las Vegas, sloppy, and exactly where Rayanne's parents lived, the place she fled after the media storm. But that wasn't the only thing the investigator found. She'd created a fake blog using a variation of my name, filled with stolen content, twisted stories, and even AI-generated screenshots of fake DMs between me and clients. It was detailed, creepy, unhinged, and it was actionable. I filed a digital impersonation and defamation claim. The evidence was strong. The IPs, the timestamps, even a photo she forgot to remove from the metadata that clearly showed her reflection in the screen of her laptop. That alone sealed it. I sent the cease and desist through an attorney. She didn't respond, but she did retaliate. Someone broke into my apartment. I came home one evening, and everything looked normal, until I walked into my writing room. Every journal I had was shredded. Files pulled from my cabinets, USB drives snapped in half, and worst of all, my laptop was gone. I stood there, frozen. The violation was personal, violent, psychological. She wanted me silent. That's when I went to the police again. But this time, I wasn't just a woman with a complaint. I had a case. They reviewed my surveillance footage. Sure enough, she'd been captured by the hallway camera, disguised in a hoodie, but her walk, her build, the tattoo she stupidly never covered on her ankle, it was her. She was arrested 2 days later. This time, it made the news. A LA woman arrested in cyberstalking, breaking and entering case involving former friend. Her mugshot was all over the internet. Now, the world really saw her, not just a name behind a scandal, a face behind the destruction. I thought it would feel like closure. It didn't. It felt like war. Because the trial wasn't smooth, Her lawyers tried to spin it. They painted her as mentally unstable, traumatized from years of being bullied in a toxic friendship. They twisted the narrative, suggested I was controlling, manipulative, even jealous of her success. But my lawyer? Ruthless. We countered every lie with receipts. The fake blogs, the emails, the footage, the voice memo, the media history, and my testimony, steady, unshaken, and damning. The jury took less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. 2 years probation. A restraining order extended for 5 more. Mandatory psychiatric treatment. And that was it. The chapter officially closed. But the healing? That took longer. Because trauma doesn't end when your abuser is punished. It lingers in the corners of your life, in the way you check every lock before bed, the way your hand trembles before hitting publish on a new piece of writing, the way you hesitate before trusting someone again. But I didn't let it stop me. I rebuilt, again, from scratch. New clients, new apartment, new circles. I spoke at a writers' conference about digital harassment and the fine line between ambition and obsession. My blog gained traction, real traction. I signed a deal with a small publisher to write a memoir. And at the first signing, someone in the audience asked me, "What would you say to her if she walked in right now?" I didn't hesitate. I'd say thank you. Because as much as it nearly destroyed me, Rayanne reminded me of the strength I didn't know I had. And how dangerous it is to underestimate a woman with a voice and receipts. You'd think prison time and public humiliation would be enough. But when Rayanne posted bail, barely 48 hours after the verdict, something in me knew this wasn't over. I was right. 3 weeks later, I received a manila envelope. No return address, no name, just my full name handwritten in shaky black ink across the front. Inside? A single USB drive. I stared at it for 10 minutes before plugging it into an offline laptop I kept for emergencies. Paranoia? Sure. But justified paranoia? The only file on the drive was a video. A shaky, low-res clip. The moment it started playing, my stomach turned. It was a video of me 9 years ago, sobbing on the floor of a college dorm hallway, clutching my phone, screaming Rayanne's name. I remembered that night, vividly. It was the night she first ghosted me after publishing her viral article. The betrayal had been so raw I lost control in public. But someone had been filming. In secret. The camera followed me as I stormed down the hall, screaming, banging on her door. And then, the door opened, but it wasn't Rayanne. It was her then roommate, Amber. She shoved me back, telling me to leave before she called security. That part I remembered. What I didn't know, until now, was that Rayanne had been hiding inside that entire time, whispering instructions to Amber. You could hear her voice clearly through the door. Tell her I'm not here, and keep filming. I need the breakdown on tape. My jaw clenched. She wanted me to unravel. She orchestrated it. And then worse, she used that footage to frame me as unhinged in future articles, in whispered rumors, in carefully constructed narratives. And she kept it. For nearly a decade. I sat there shaking, staring at the paused frame of me on the ground, mascara smudged, begging to be heard, while Rayanne laughed behind the camera. That video wasn't just a record of humiliation. It was evidence of intent. Evidence that her lies didn't stem from trauma, but premeditation. But the real question was, who sent it to me? I didn't have to wait long for the answer. That night, I got a message request on Instagram. From Amber. Amber, her old roommate. Her message was simple. I should have come forward years ago, but I was scared of her too. I'm sorry. I'm ready to talk. I stared at my phone in disbelief. We arranged to meet at a cafe in Pasadena. Neutral ground. Public. Safe. Amber walked in wearing sunglasses and a hoodie like she was dodging paparazzi, but when she took them off, I saw the guilt written all over her face. She didn't even sit before blurting. I recorded that video, but Rayanne told me to. She said you were a threat to her career, that she needed leverage. I didn't speak. I just let her pour it all out. The truth spilled in a frantic whispered rush. Rayanne had a Google Drive full of private videos, not just of me, but others she'd manipulated or sabotaged. She kept notes, journals documenting how she planned interactions, emotional setups, even faked meltdowns to manipulate public sympathy. She once tried to pay Amber to plant a lost diary filled with fake journal entries supposedly written by me to make me look unstable. And worst of all, she was planning something else, something big. Amber didn't know what it was exactly, but she heard Rayanne muttering about resetting the narrative and making sure she can never open her mouth again. That's when I realized Rayanne wasn't just vengeful, she was dangerous. And she wasn't done with me. The video, the timing, the silence, it wasn't a white flag. It was a threat. But this time I had something she didn't. A witness. Amber agreed to testify, to hand over the original footage and screenshots from back then. We took everything to the DA. And while they began reopening parts of the case, Rayanne vanished. Disappeared. Gone. No posts, no sightings. Her apartment? Empty. Even her parents claimed they hadn't heard from her. It was like she evaporated. For 2 weeks I couldn't sleep, I kept expecting her to show up at my door, or worse, my book tour. The anxiety gnawed at me until I started canceling appearances and double-checking locks like I was living in a thriller. Then, 3 nights later, I woke up to the sound of glass breaking. My heart stopped. I grabbed the bat by my bed and crept out of the bedroom, barefoot, every board underfoot creaking like a scream. The living room window, shattered. Curtains blowing, cold air flooding in. And there, on the floor, a single Polaroid photo. It was me. Outside the cafe with Amber. Taken from a distance. Behind the photo, written in red ink. "You can't erase me, I made you." That was the moment I realized. Rayanne didn't just want to ruin my life. She wanted to own it. And she was about to do something that would push everything past the point of no return. She called me girl, like the past never happened, like she didn't destroy my life. But the moment I saw her standing in that penthouse, something shifted. My hands didn't shake, my voice didn't quiver. I had waited for this moment, and it was mine to own. The buyer, an older gentleman in a cashmere coat, walked around admiring the natural light. Rayanne chirped like a parrot, trailing behind him. "She's the best," Rayanne told him, pointing at me. "Tasha and I go way back. She used to crash in my living room back when she was just getting started in LA. Look at her now, though." The buyer glanced between us, amused but distracted. I took that moment to breathe, just once, before walking over to him with my signature client folder. "Thanks for stopping by," I said, handing it to him. "I do want to mention, there is a waiting list for clients seeking cash-preferred listings, especially those with proof of funds already submitted." Rayanne's smile twitched. The buyer nodded respectfully and said he'd review the listings and reach out directly. I guided him toward the elevator while Rayanne trailed behind like a shadow, trying to stay in the frame. When the elevator doors closed and it was just the two of us again, Rayanne stepped closer. Wow, Tasha, you've really made it. I'm so proud of you." I didn't respond right away. I just stared at her until the silence made her nervous. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other. "You look good," she tried again. "Like money." That's when I pulled out the folded paper from my purse. Not a copy, the original. The eviction letter. "I kept it," I said, "just in case I ever forgot what you were capable of. But I never did." Her face went pale. "Tasha. No, don't talk. You lied. You stole. You ruined my name. You got me kicked out of my own apartment. I slept in my car because of you. You disappeared like I was nothing. Like we weren't friends since freshman year. And now you want to act like it was some misunderstanding?" She reached out, desperate. "Please, that was a long time ago. I was in a bad place. We all were. I just didn't use it as an excuse to destroy someone who trusted me." She stood frozen, no words left. I turned to walk away but stopped at the door. "Oh, and don't bother trying to contact the buyer. He just texted me. He's going with another agent." I left her standing in the marble-floored entryway, the sunlight no longer flattering. That night, I recorded a video, no names, no specifics, just truth. "I ran into someone from my past today," I began, and it reminded me of how far I've come. 10 years ago, I lost my best friend, my home, and my relationship in the same week. I slept in my car. I nearly gave up, but I didn't. I built myself back one key at a time, and now I sell homes, because I learned how to rebuild from rock bottom. I posted it with the caption, "From evicted to empowered." By morning, the video had gone viral. Messages poured in, people sharing their betrayals, their heartbreaks, their comebacks. Rayanne messaged me privately 3 times. I didn't open them. Some people don't deserve closure. Some bridges stay burned, and that's okay. Because I didn't just lose a friend, I lost a roof, but I built my own, and now I sell them.